Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to connect to a Google Sheet. So everybody's going to open up a web browser if you would like to follow along and go to datastudio.google.com. Again, if it's your first time, you might have to log in to your Google account or say, yes, I want to start using Google Data Studio. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a blank report. So we're going to start with this blank report and we're going to press that plus. And that is going to open up our what data do you want to use for this report. And for this report, we're going to use a Google Sheet. So we'll go ahead and we'll click on that Google Sheet. And if you're logged into your Google, you'll likely see the Google Sheets that you have access to. For this example, we are going to use this URL. So this is a URL that is public, so anyone with this link can view, so we shouldn't have any issues. So we can choose to say, I want to view all items owned by me, shared with me, starred, or URL. So I actually want to just select that URL option, and then I'm going to paste in the link that I pasted in the chat window. And what that's going to do is that's going to show you the different tabs, the different worksheets in that Google Sheet. So if I go ahead and I open up in another tab, this Google Sheet itself, you can see I have two tabs. I have brewery data and I have beer data. So I have my beer data and my brewery data. If I click back over to Google Data Studio, you can see I have my brewery data and my beer data. So I can only connect to one of them at a time. So I am going to start with the brewery data. So I'm just going to make sure that that's what's highlighted. And I am going to go down and I'm going to add this data to my report. It's going to say, it's your first time doing something. You're about to add this data to the report. Do you want to add it? I don't need to see this every time I'm choosing to add it. So I am going to choose to not show this again. And then I'm going to go ahead and just click add to report. Now you can see on the left-hand side here, I'll zoom in a little bit. I have my data. I'm connected up to this Bellingham Brewery's data set. And I have all of the fields, the column headers that I had in that brewery worksheet. If I want to add another data set, I have a couple of options. But I can go ahead and click on this data source, and you can see if I click on it, this Bellingham Brewery's data set, brewery data. If I click on it, you can see my added data source and my available data sources. If you've never used Data Studio before, likely your added data source is your only data source. But I can also use this add data button to add another data source. So this is basically kind of re-kicking off that entry screen of I want to connect to another data source. So again, that's done in this chart pane by just clicking on the gray data source that I have connected to and saying add data. There are multiple options for this, but this is kind of in our line of work. And that's going to re-pop up my data connectors window. I'm going to select Google Sheets again. I am going to go back to my URL. I'm going to paste that URL in again, and I'm going to select the beer data. So now I want that second tab because I want both of those worksheets. Now, when I click on my data source, you can see I have two added data sources. I have one for my beer data, and I have one for my brewery data.